Welcome, everybody, here to episode 32 of the Off the Wall Hockey Show. Steele and I are back from vacation. We both had vacations at the same time, so we are back and ready to talk some hockey here. Obviously, it's kind of like the dog days of summer. We've gotten to that point in the off season where there isn't exactly a whole lot happening most of the time. But there's still definitely some stuff to talk about, some teams making moves. We've had some later signings as well to talk about, just as far as some guys signing a little bit after free agency open. And there's still some decent players available that haven't signed yet that definitely also worth talking about as well. So we're going to get into that. And the biggest thing that I want to talk about in this week's show is the defense market, which I think is just absolutely out of control. Some of the contracts that defensemen have gotten this offseason that are ending up being way bigger than I think they should be getting. So we're going to talk about that as well. All of it here on episode 32. And Steele, it's great to have you back on. It's great to talk some hockey and get another episode under our belt here.
Wow. You know, first of all, thank you very much for having me on here and really appreciate all the work you do here for Off the Wall Hockey. It's awesome. I hope you had fun on your vacation.
Oh, I did. I hope you did as well.
Oh, man, I'm here to tell you. I had great fun. And I am ready to talk exactly what you said. Wowzers, some big, giant, flapping contracts have been jumping off the pages here in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. I mean, what? Maybe these guys know something that we don't know.
I don't know, but there's a whole bunch of defensemen making a lot of money. And I think there's going to be a good number of them that don't live up to that kind of money.
Okay. I would say of the list, okay, and it seems like to me, because these aren't the only guys that are on this list of making this kind of money. Okay, because like if you add, what did Ovechkin sign for? 5 years for 9.5.
9.5, yeah.
Right. What did Brandon Point sign for?
9.5.
9.5.
Yeah,
right?
I'm just talking strictly defensemen.
Right. But what I'm saying is that there's a bunch of other guys out there too that we could probably throw on this list that are, making that kind of money.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So, but yes, it's decidedly heavy on the blue line for sure. These contracts for the names that these contracts are getting. I mean, Seth Jones, 8 years, $9.5 million. I'm really scratching my head on that one. I'm having a hard time with that one. Cale Makar for Colorado, you know what?
That's a good one.
For 6 years at $9 million?
The fact that Cale Makar is making less than Seth Jones just tells me how absolutely ridiculous and out of control some of these contracts have been. Because Cale Makar is an infinitely better defenseman than Seth Jones.
That's why I was like, yeah, that's a better pill. Like, that actually is that to me is a great contract.
Deal. That's a great deal.
Yeah, okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page.
Yeah, no, that's a great deal. It's the fact that all these other guys are getting Makar money now is absurd to me.
They're not even close. I agree. Jones is not even on the same page.
Darnell Nurse making 9.25? Are you kidding me?
Where did that come from?
Like, Nurse should be making like 7.
Yeah, that's a better...
Darnell Nurse should be making like 7 mil AAV, not 9.25. It's getting ridiculous. I mean, we're going to go deep into this. We're going to talk about a bunch of them. It's getting ridiculous.
It is.
And we look at Erik Carlson's contract now with San Jose with at $11.5 million, and we look at that as being one of definitely the top 3 worst contracts in the league. I would say him, Skinner, and Bobrovsky kind of stand out as your horrendous contract.
You know what? You might even have to sprinkle the Eichel deal in there too, because that's turning out to be really sourful and really a tough pill to swallow, because he's on the hook for that for at least the next how many more years.
Yeah, but at least Eichel, when he's healthy, is an elite player. I mean, these guys are not putting up any sort of numbers. And
okay,
I mean, Jeff Skinner had 14 points last year. I mean, for him to be making $9 million, I mean, for Erik Carlson to be making 11.5. My point is that some of these contracts are going to turn into Erik Carlson-like contracts. Like, you are going to be looking at these and thinking these are some of the worst contracts in the entire NHL. And I think the money getting thrown around for defensemen right now is just absurd.
Okay, I can understand the gold rush, because if you look at what Tampa Bay has done over the last 2 years, the type of defenseman that they've been able to put out on the ice, and that's basically what these guys are trying to get, is these types of players that can help them win a Stanley Cup. Do you see what I'm saying? And so I look at this list here, and I see one guy on this list that even is remotely like the Cale Makar. That's the only one I see on here that, like, all right, that to me is an okay deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's really kind of the only one.
Yeah, Victor
Everyone
Hedman
else looks like, what? Adam Pelech, maybe? I mean, he got a lot of years, but
yeah, that's the thing with the Pelech deal is the years. I mean,
right.
Speaking of Tampa Bay, Victor Hedman is making $7.87 million. So he's under $8 million. Victor Hedman, who I think is one of the best defensemen in the NHL and has been for years,
yep,
is making $7.87 million. Meanwhile, Seth Jones is making $9.5. Dougie Hamilton's making $9. Warrenski's making $9.58 somehow. Darnell Nurse is making $9.25. Like, it's, I think these contracts are going to come back and be a big problem long term.
Here's something else too, maybe just some food for thought. The NHL has recently signed a major upgraded TV contract for starting this next coming season. So a whole new set of TV guys are going to be broadcasting the games and the whole 9 yards. And it's going to be a whole different set of people and broadcasting rights and all that other stuff. So that contract is, gosh, hands and feet above what they got from the previous contract. And I know that they're saying, yeah, it's a flat cap, but I think the cap after this coming season, I think, is going to go up. Not, I'm not expecting it to go up by $10 million.
Well, Frank Saravelli, I actually have it right here. Next season, so 2022-23, $82.5 million. So it's going up by $1 million between this coming year and next year. Beyond that, we don't know. They're definitely taking it as a year-by-year thing, but it's projected to go up to 82.5 for 2022-23. That's according to Frank Saravelli, who is the insider that first reported that.
And usually Mr. Saravelli is pretty reliable.
Well, he nailed the expansion draft hours before it happened.
Right.
So
that's why I was kind of tongue in cheek saying that he is pretty reliable.
Yeah, he nailed that for sure.
Look, I am so with you on this, though. The fact that these particular types of players are making this kind of money. I can understand signing a Gabriel Landeskog to a contract kind of similar to this. I can understand signing a Cale Makar to a particular contract like this. I can understand a Braden Point even getting a contract similar to this. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Some players are absolutely worth it.
Yeah,
I just don't think a lot of these guys on this list are going to end up being worth it.
I would like to see in year 2 or 3 of these deals, if any of these guys are even still. And I mean, Dougie Hamilton very well maybe. Cale Makar is probably going to be. Seth Jones and maybe Darnell Nurse. But I want to see where everybody else is after that. Even that still.
Yeah, and I like a lot of these players. I think a lot of them are good players. I just don't think they're worth this kind of money. Like, it's particularly, like, the ones that stick out to me, Darnell Nurse, that's absurd. $9.25 million per season. I love Darnell Nurse, and I would love to have him on my team, but I am not paying him over $9 million a year. Like I said, I think Darnell Nurse should be somewhere right around 7 for what Darnell Nurse brings.
Okay, so now we got Darnell at about 7. Even still at 8 years, or would you back the years down a little?
No, he's young enough. I'd go 8 years. I give him 7.5 on an 8-year deal.
All right.
I'd be cool with that. But 9?
Yeah, no.
Oh my.
No, like it's 9.25.
Yeah, it's again like long term. This could become a big time problem. Zach Warrenski is another one, and I'm a huge Zach Warrenski fan. As much as I haven't liked Seth Jones over the last couple years, I've loved Zach Warrenski. But 9.58
for 6 years.
I mean, Warrenski's a good young blue liner who can be a top pair, who's without a doubt a top pair guy.
I agree.
Again, I'd like Warrenski on like a 6x, maybe a 6x8. I think Warrenski's a better all around player than Nurse. So I would take him at 8. I would take Warrenski at 6x8. And give him a 6-year deal at $8 million per. But 9.58.
Yeah, that's.
Oh my! Like I don't see it. Even Dougie Hamilton's going to put up points. He's going to be a top pair guy. He's going to, have 50 plus, maybe even 60 plus points. You know what you're going to get, but again, $9 million, like for a team like New Jersey too, it's really not at a playoff level yet, or at least hasn't been. We'll see if they are ready to take that step or not, but you better hope that Dougie Hamilton, remains being a 60-point defenseman. Because if he drops off, and how many times have we seen guys just drop off? I mean, look at a current New Jersey Devil who's going into the last year of his own horrendous contract in PK Subban. Look at the way he just dropped off and went from being a star D-man to being a guy who you didn't even want in the lineup.
Yeah.
If Dougie Hamilton does that after, say, year 3, you've got 4 more years at $9 million. The risk with these deals are a lot more than I'd be willing to take, in my opinion.
All right, so let's see. If you wouldn't take Dougie Hamilton at 7 years for $9 million, what do you think? Like, say. Like the deal, like say 4 years at $5.5 million or something like that.
Oh yeah, easy. But he would never take that.
Okay, so I bet you that
if it was going to be a shorter deal, you'd have to really bump money.
Okay, well, so I bet you that's what Carolina offered him, because I remember
Carolina's last offer I think was $6.2 million per season or something like that.
For the same amount of years?
I think it was 7 years, $6.2 million, and he got 9 from New Jersey. So that was a no-brainer on his part.
I mean, look, I'm happy for guys to get all that they can. I'm never going to question a guy for getting as much money as he possibly can. I'm never going to...
No, I'm not questioning the players. I'm questioning these GMs.
Yes, that's the better question right there. Because I only see the one player on this whole list that's even worth the money that he's getting, and that's the Makar deal.
I don't mind the Pelech deal. I just think it's too long. If that was 6 years instead of 8, I would be 100% on board with the Pelech deal, because I actually think that 5.75 is not a bad cap hit for him.
No, it isn't.
I just don't like the 8 years. Too much can happen. too much can happen over that kind of span.
But you know what, though? That gives them an opportunity, because that's such a team-friendly deal. That gives that potentially could be a movable cog. Or potentially, you know what I mean? It's a team-friendly deal, I think, as far as long as you get a couple more years out of him, then you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think if he's playing, up to that contract, then I don't think they're going to want to move him, because I think Adam Pelech's a very good shutdown defenseman. And I actually don't mind the 5.75 at all. The
years.
So much can happen. All it takes is one injury. Look at, we've seen it so many times. Erik Carlson is such a great example of this. Guy was a multiple-time Norris Trophy winner, played on that bad foot/ankle all the way through the 2017 playoffs, and was never the same again.
No.
Signed that huge contract with San Jose, $11.5 million per year, and he's never been the same since playing on that bad foot. All it takes is one injury for these guys, and all of a sudden they're not worth half of what they're making. You have no way of getting rid of the contract because nobody's going to take it. And you dig yourself into such a hole, and I see that happening with at least a few of these. Some of these players are not going to come close to living up to these contracts.
I'm going to say that 60% of the players on this list are not going to make it. That's just where I'm at. 60%, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, Brent Seabrook's another one who now his contract got shipped out by Chicago to Tampa Bay to be LTIR relief. But look at Brent Seabrook, when he signed his big deal, was well worth that money. He was one of the best defensive shutdown D-men in the league. He played on multiple time Stanley Cup winner in Chicago. He was worth that money when he signed that deal. And then look how quickly the injuries just completely took him out of the picture. And now his contract's being passed around like a hot potato because of LTIR relief, from Chicago to Tampa Bay because they need cap space. So I just, and that's not even worst case scenario, because at least if that happens, you get the cap relief. So let's say, someone gets, let's say Pelech gets injured for the Islanders and is going to miss a whole season. Well, you can at least, there's $5.75 million added to your cap right there. That's not even worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is Erik Carlson.
Yeah.
When they're still playing, they're still healthy, they're still in the lineup and on the roster, but they're a shell of what they used to be as far as a player goes. And then you're paying a guy, all this money to be half of what he should be. And I can see that happening I could see that definitely with Seth Jones. I don't think Seth Jones has ever been worth $9.5 million in his career, and he certainly isn't right now. I could potentially see that happening with Dougie Hamilton down the line. I could definitely see that happening with Warrenski, especially if they don't get him any help in Columbus. Columbus is going to be terrible next year. If you don't get him any help and you play him 26 minutes a night, something's going to go wrong there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
It's mind-boggling to me, the money being thrown out for these guys.
I also think the same thing with Nurse, too.
Oh, definitely.
I don't think, I just don't think he's going to be able to, I would like to address that with our resident Canadian experts, Perlo and Peyton, on that Darnell Nurse signing. I'd be interested to see what their take is on that, because I imagine that probably didn't go over well. Just the amount of time and the amount of money for the player of his caliber.
I just don't think he's worth that much. I like him as a player too. I'm not ragging on this guy. I like Darnell Nurse's game a lot, but 9.25. No. Yeah. That's just...
not for 8 years. I would have probably gone 7 years, maybe 7.5, maybe almost 8.
Yeah, I would have definitely done 7.5, but 9? Oh no.
9.25.
He's 26 years old, so he's still decently young.
Yeah.
He had a career year last year. He had 36 points in 56 games and was plus 27. He had the best year of his career last season by far. And again, I like his game. Like, he's a good defenseman.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
but
yeah.
I don't think there are many defensemen in the league that are worth over $9 million a year. I think that kind of money should be reserved for the elite guys. Darnell Nurse isn't elite. He's very good, but he's not elite.
Okay, so like, well, I just been noticing something here. Maybe you can help me out here on this. You notice how in NBA, the really elite players get the quote unquote max contracts.
Yes.
The max contracts are $150 million for 3-4 years.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well,
I don't follow basketball enough
let's
to
just
know.
say that's what it is. Okay, it's something crazy, ridiculous like that. Okay, but the NBA has allowed each team to have, I think it's 2 max contracts on their roster at any given time, which that means that those guys are those max contracts, or those guys are making well over $10 million a year. So it seems like the NHL's max contract is about that 9.5, and then once you get past that and you get into that $10 million range, you know what I mean? When you start getting into that double digit a year range.
Panarin, Eichel, Matthews, McDavid.
Okay, all right. So you get where I'm going with that.
Mm-hmm.
But even like Ovechkin is only getting 9.5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even the big major guys right now aren't making that kind of money. I mean, yeah, there's a couple of guys.
Yeah, I mean, they're the guys that signed a few years ago before we knew that we were going to have a flat cap. I mean, they started handing out $10 and $11 million per year contracts. Those were starting to fly, and then everything happened, and now all of a sudden money's come back down a little bit. But
and I think there's also been the influx of the new TV deals, and that's why I think some of these contracts are for the length of time they are.
Well, that's the other thing. That's a big difference between the NHL and the NBA is that the NBA guys want shorter term deals. Like they're moving
3-4 years.
They're moving teams all the time. They want like 2, 3, 4 years max. Like they because there aren't a lot of career ending injuries in basketball. Like you think about the top players. And the names that are getting these max contracts are guys that have been max contract guys now for years, or are going to be for years down the line. So these guys, they don't need the security of an 8-year deal because they're signing for 2-3 years, trying to get a championship, and then trying to figure out which is going to be the next super team that goes and gets the championship and tries to sign with them. So they're constantly bouncing around and stuff. And I don't think. Whereas in hockey, I think there's a lot more stock put into knowing that you're going to be getting paid for at least the next 8 years. And you know that, even if I get injured, I'm under contract for the next 7 years or the next 8 years. And even if I'm an LTIR guy and I never play another hockey game, I'm still getting paid for the rest of this contract. So in the NHL, the big thing in the NHL is length. Like length is a huge thing where all of these guys signing big deals want, they don't want a 3-year deal. They want, 7 years, 8 years, however long they can get to stay locked in with this one place and know that they're going to be making this much money for this long amount of time. And if something happens, if they get injured, if they have a Brent Seabrook situation where, they have a bunch of back surgeries and can't play anymore, then, he's still getting paid the rest of that contract. And he knows that he's going to be making that money.
It doesn't count against the cap anymore, though, but he's still getting paid.
Yes, they just get the cap relief when he's on LTIR.
Yeah, no, I understand. No, I understand.
So it helps the team in that sense. and the player still gets his money for the rest of his deal.
Okay, but look, let's face it. Dougie Hamilton is already kind of, 7 years. Do you really think he's going to be still viable after the next, say, 3?
Hamilton, let's see. He's got to be late 20s now, right? He's 28. So a 7-year deal puts him to 35. He could still definitely be a good defenseman at 35, but there's also no guarantee of that.
True.
That's
what I mean. That's
where
what I'm
the
talking
big
about.
risk comes in.
Yeah.
That, we don't know what Dougie Hamilton's going to be 8 years from now or 7 years from now when this contract's up. Could he still be a number one guy? Absolutely. Now, his next contract certainly isn't going to be at $9 million per year because he's going to be signing the 35 plus, old man
those
contract.
are going to be, those are decidedly smaller contracts.
Yes. Yeah, he'll be getting a 3-year by $4 million or something like that if he's depending on what he's what level he's still playing at. But
I agree.
No, I just think that the defense market has gotten out of control this offseason, and you're seeing guys that are not worth this kind of money getting these huge contracts. And I think some of them certainly will probably work out. Cale Makar, I think he's going to be the best D-man in the league for a while, so that's going to be a fine contract. And he's one of the cheaper ones on here. There are guys getting more than 9 that are definitely lesser players than Cale Makar.
But he actually, wait. He's not actually the cheapest one, but he's the one that has the most value for what he signed and the amount of money that he's getting paid.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think he's going to be the best defenseman in the league.
I think he's going to win the trophy probably next year.
Yeah, he's got multiple Norrises in his future. In my opinion,
I really do, because I think Victor Hedman. He even came out and said that this was a down year for him, and
he's getting
third.
older now. And
yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? And he's already had his dance. It's time to pass the torch, and I really think that Makar is going to be the guy. And hey, that's just my opinion too. So,
Hedman's crossed the 30 threshold now. So
that's what I mean. And I'm not taking anything away from the guy. You know what I'm saying? But once you get past that 30 threshold, and as a D-man, it's tough to continue that level of play. I'm not saying that he still can't do it, because I don't have any doubts. That look at what he was able to do and was able to still be considered in the running for the trophy, even though he came out and admitted he had a down year.
Yeah, well, a down year for him.
That's your down year, geez.
A down year for him would be a great season for a lot of defensemen in the league.
That's what I mean. Like, God, that's a down year for you, dude. Gosh. I'd hate to see a really fracking good one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what? That's what I mean. I can see him still being good for the next couple of years.
Oh yeah,
easily.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So,
I think some of these contracts are going to work out fine, and I think some of them are going to be disasters. And when I see GMs throwing money like this out there on players that I personally wouldn't be throwing money at like this, I start to pay attention, and I'm interested to see which ones turn out to be disasters, because at least a couple of them are. And somebody like Dougie Hamilton's had a great last few years. He very well could be worth this money, without a doubt. But there's also that chance that after 2 or 3 years, things go south and he falls flat on his face. And I would say the same thing for most of these contracts.
Would you do Dougie Hamilton for 5 years?
Yeah, that's a safer bet. A 5x9 is definitely a lot safer bet than a 7x9. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Because then, if he's 28, you're looking at him being 33 when he's...
Yeah.
Then, he still could get one more decent contract at 33.
Or what you could do is you could give him a 5-year deal with the option for a 2-year extension, okay, at maybe a prorated rate or something crazy stupid like that. I mean, I don't know. Because there's no way that he could get an extension for that and expect to still be making $9 million after 7 years, and now he's in his 30s.
Mid-30s, yeah. No,
Yeah.
his next contract will not be this high.
That's what I mean. So if you say, hey, we'll give you 5 years for $9 million, right, and then we'll put something on there for a potential for an extension, not obviously at $9 million, but we'll have your rights for the next 2 years or whatever.
You'd have to cross that bridge at that time.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Seth Jones is the one that I just don't think is going to be good at all, just because of how bad he's been the last couple of years.
If we get to, let's say, the trade deadline, and he still is languishing around at 20 points.
Nobody's touching that.
But do you see what I mean, though?
No, Chicago's in deep with this now. They've put all their eggs in the Seth Jones basket.
Well, they put all their eggs in the Jones family basket.
Yeah, because there's no getting rid of this. Because this 8-year extension at 9.5 doesn't even kick in until next summer. He still had 1 year left on his current deal, which is for this season. And then the 8-year extension at 9.5 kicks in next year for 2022-23.
Nope.
Nobody's taking that contract. Chicago is in it with this deal. Like, they're going to live or die with this Seth Jones contract. Because if they get into this and he has 20 points and he's minus 15 on the season, and I mean, nobody's touching that contract. They're going to be in the same situation that Buffalo is right now with Jeff Skinner.
If he follows his current trend,
he needs to have a bounce back season.
So, like I said, if he follows his current trend of points, which has been on the down.
Yeah, he had 28 in 56 games last year, but he was minus 18.
So by the trade deadline, that's just a spit past halfway, right?
Yeah, usually it's a little past. No, it's closer. It's more of a split, I think, but in the second half. I think it's a split between like halfway and 3/4.
So it's almost the same amount of games. 50 games.
Yeah, I would say in an 82 game season, I would say the trade deadline would probably be somewhere around 55 games in or so.
Same amount of games.
Actually, it might even be further into the season than that. But yeah, if he has 28 points at the trade deadline and is a minus, there's going to be a problem.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say to you here now. Okay, so that was his. If he follows his current trend and he's a minus player, he's only has 28 points after 50 odd games. That is a huge, all right. But if he comes out the next year and does the same exact thing, which is kind of what we're all expecting, then yeah, you're in really deep doo-doo on that one, buddy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want that contract. If I was a team, and that's going to be the other sad thing too, is that after 2-3 years when this marriage sours, right? Because he's not going to get his minutes. Do you see what I'm saying? Because something's going to happen where he's not going to get something that he feels he's going to get or whatever. Something I feel is going to happen.
I didn't realize Seth Jones was this. I knew he was bad last year, but his analytics last season, I mean, were absolutely abysmal. Like, his WAR was 3%. He was in the 3rd percentile. Like, that is dark red. And he's bad offense. Actually, he was bad at even strength in general. His even strength offense and his even strength defense were both terrible last season.
And since he had his 60-point season, they have
just plummeted.
Dropped off a fracking cliff.
Yeah, he's good on the penalty kill.
That.
Don't you have
But
third
but
pair
but
guys that can do
okay,
that?
but for 9.5 mil a
Yeah,
year,
don't you have third pair guys that do that?
jeez, that's a little excessive, ain't it,
Now,
guys?
I don't think he's going to be as bad as he was last season. Again, that was like an abysmal year. But
And he wasn't playing with nearly the group of players that he could potentially be playing with in Columbus,
er,
which that doesn't really give me the warm fuzzies neither.
I think
Because
he'll be playing on a better team in Chicago.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
he'll
all
be
right,
playing on a better team, but
okay.
I just the trajectory is not good. Now, I don't think he's going to be as bad again as he was last season, but he certainly isn't elite, and he certainly isn't worth $9.5 million per season.
He certainly isn't worth getting the elite money for
No.
the elite years, and I agree with you 100%.
And that his contract kind of messed up the whole market because Makar signed the day after, and Makar's actually looks like a team-friendly deal at this point at 6x9.
Yeah,
And then you had all the others come in. I mean, you had Warrenski, who undoubtedly is better than Seth Jones, get 9.58, so he gets slightly more than Jones. But I still don't think
2 less
Warrenski's
years.
a $9.5 million defenseman.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's more of an $8 million defenseman. Darnell
Right?
Nurse, like I said, 7.5
7,
would have been my number for him, not 9.25.
5 years.
And then you have kind of the guys that aren't looked at as elite guys, but still like good top four defensemen. And Adam Pelech gets, again, I didn't mind Pelech at 5.75. I think in this market he could have easily asked for 6.5.
Agreed.
So
and even Pionk too.
yeah, Neil Pionk's the other
Pionk.
one that signed a little bit later. Now his is a little shorter; it's only a 4-year deal, but he got $5.875 million. I mean, he puts up points. There's no doubt about it. And Winnipeg doesn't exactly have a lot on the back end, so they needed to lock him up because they desperately need him. And he's had a couple of really good seasons with them. And again, is only 26 years old. He had,
Right.
I think it was 30. He had 32 points last season in 54 games. He had 45 points in 71 games the year before. Like, he's a point producer. There's no doubt about it. And he's been an important top four guy for them, but to be making almost $6 million a year, I think that's slightly over what I would have been comfortable with.
I agree. I mean, I would have been more closer to the $5 million a year than the $6 million a year.
Him on a 4x5, I would have been all over. 4 years, $5 million. Sign
straight
me
up.
I'm good.
Yeah.
But now he's pushing 6. You got another guy. This market is rising, and I just think, like I said, I think some of these contracts are going to be disastrous long term. Some of them I think are going to work out fine. Pionk's actually one that I think is probably going to work out because if he's a 45, 50 point D-man, plays in your top 4, plays on the power play, and you've got him at 5.87, I'm good with that. I'll take that. And it's only a 4-year deal too. It's not like they have him locked up till he's 34. Like it's a 4-year deal. He'll be 30 when it's up, and they can reassess then. I agree. So that's actually one that I like. But overall, this market's just been astounding to me.
I agree. Even the Pelech deal. So the only thing that we don't like about that is the number of years. But other than that, that's an okay deal, right? Yep. So that's two players. We also like the Makar deal.
Yeah, I like that one.
Right. So that's 3 players. The list is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I was pretty much spot on.
Yeah, 3 of them we like, 4 of them not so much. Hamilton's I don't hate. I think he very well could be worth that.
But that means that
it's a slight reach. It's a slight reach.
It is, but that means that 60% of the players on this list will not make it.
No, in Nurse, Warrenski, and Jones, I like the not Jones, not as much, but Warrenski and Nurse I really like, but I think they're overpaid. And Seth Jones' contract I think is the most ridiculous out of them all.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm trying to say here. I just That's a real head scratcher. The fact that, I mean, honestly, that is, they probably didn't need to offer him that amount of money. I mean, because he's making what, 5.6 now?
Yeah, somewhere around there, mid fives.
Okay, so if you would have offered him like 7.5, you know what I mean, for maybe instead of 8 years, maybe 6. I don't know. Even to me, that is even way more than what I think he's really worth.
Oh yeah, and the other thing that I've been so caught up in the money is why would you commit to Seth Jones for 8 years? That's the other part of this that makes no sense.
Because you don't want to
Wouldn't you want to test it out for a year or two and make sure because if he continues on the path that he's on, he's not gonna be in the league in 8 years.
He's probably not gonna. Well, look, he's getting to live the dream that we only get to dream about. So more power to you, bro. But as far as I'm concerned, in my honest opinion, I don't think he's going to make it to the length of this contract. I think in the next couple of years, he's going to probably either be waived or out or bought out.
I think he'll be bought out.
Or something along those lines. And that's a real shame, too, because the kid really did have promise. Maybe if he gets under the right coach and maybe if he gets under the right team with maybe the right teammates, maybe he'll be that he does have. I mean, there's flashes and there's potential there, but there's a lot of ifs.
He's just got to get back to being a decent top 4 defenseman. Let's just start there.
For that.
Let's just start there and go from that point on. But that's my point. This guy's had 3 straight years of nothing but declining numbers for Seth Jones and declining performance visually on the ice. Why would you commit to that for 8 years?
I don't know.
When he's on such a downward trajectory.
Do you know why? It's like what we've talked about this before. Each team looks at a player and goes, "Yeah, we can fix them. We can coach that.
Yeah,
we can
how
fix
often
that.
does that actually work?"
That's what I'm talking about. What, Seth Jones? Oh, look at all that potential. We can coach that. We can turn this guy into a superstar. Yeah, bring him on. Yeah, let's go. And then, it doesn't always work out. So I hope it does, but historically, the odds are far.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be good long term, but we don't know. I can't predict the future. We'll have to wait and see.
It could be eating crow in a couple of years. Who knows? He could be this all-star that just blossoms out of Chicago because he's on this, well.
Yeah, maybe he'll win a Norris in 2 years and he'll be one of the top guys. I don't know, but I just don't. Based on what I've seen from him the last few years, I don't see that happening. That would take a monumental turnaround on his part.
That's what I'm talking about right there. A monumental turnaround on his part. Look, you can remove the excuses. Oh, he played for a bad team. Oh, he played for a bad goalie. Oh, this, oh, that, oh, this, oh, that. Well, you get rid of all those excuses and you put him on a good team that has a good goalie and, some other good defensemen and some good offense. Well, so now what's your excuse?
Mm-hmm.
It's you. Oh, okay. Well, naturally, because you got to help to try to remove the excuses to figure out what's going on. So,
yeah, absolutely. But anyway, that's what I wanted to, one of the main things I wanted to talk about was just this defense market right now and the kind of money that these defensemen are getting. They're all getting paid like elite defensemen, and I don't think they're all elite defensemen. So
I have one question. All right. Here's my question. And this question is to all the general managers of all the teams out there right now. Okay? Here is my question. John is an elite play-by-play man. Why are you not banging down this guy's door and giving him a 3x3.98, whatever you want to do? Hello! That's my question right there, buddy. How's that for you?
Well, we'll see if the phone ever rings. But
well, I'm gonna put it out there because, man, look. Here's the other thing too. I want to see how this pans out over the next couple of years, because I really think that some of these contracts are a little bit too early. Okay, I can see these contracts in, say, 2-3 years, when we know for a fact that the cap is going to go up. Look, there's also some teams out there that have quite a bit of money to spend. You know what I mean? If they have look, it all goes back to the major capitalist deal, or the major capitalist fundamentals is this. Look, if you want to pay your CEO $3.5 million a year, he might be the worst CEO in the whole world. He you know what I mean? But if you choose to pay him that, then that's your choice.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or says. Right? So if Chicago wants to write a check every year for $9.5 million for Seth Jones for the next 8 years, then I hope you guys are ready to accept and swallow the pill that this is the type of player that he is, and this is the kind of production you're going to get. Yeah. I don't think they're going to swallow that pill, but hey, I guess they're willing to now, at least.
Yeah, maybe 5 years down the line, we'll be talking about the Seth Jones buyout from Chicago.
But you know what I mean? I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
I think Dougie Hamilton's going to probably be another one, too, where, I mean, come on, 7 years?
We'll see.
At $9 million? I thought that the league was trying to, get rid of those front-end loaded contracts that go long, so that it evens out. You know what I mean? Like, they would give these guys these exorbitant amounts of money at the beginning of the contract, and then at the end of the contracts were really light. Or the exact opposite. The beginning of the contracts were really light, and the end of the contract was really big-time money.
Yeah, but there's rules now, like you have
That's what I mean.
There's percentage rules now, and the cap hit's the same no matter what. You can front load the contract all you want. The cap hit's the same AAV all the way through. But there are rules like
exactly.
You can only I don't know. I don't know the business side as well, but I know that there's like you can only put a certain percentage more in the first year than what you're putting in the second or the third or the
fourth year. Yeah, exactly.
You can't like completely front load it and then have it be $1 in the last year of the contract or something like that.
Right, or do it the exact opposite, so that by the time they get to the end of the contract, or before they get to the end of the contract. See, that's the other thing too. If they reach that 35 age by the time before they get to the end of the contract. You know what I mean? How does that affect things? Look, there's all kinds of different things out there. The truth of the matter is this. We both feel, our educated opinion is that Seth Jones' contract is just a bit outside. And we also feel that the Dougie Hamilton is also on that same train of just a bit outside. We're questioning the Warrenski, the amount of money that he's getting. We're questioning that. We're also questioning the Darnell Nurse money as well. We're happy with everybody else on the list, but
see, I like Hamilton's better than Nurse's.
I agree, because Hamilton's got better upside, maybe.
I think Hamilton's pretty established at this point that he's going to be a big point producer. And if that's what you're looking for and you need an offensive defenseman, then there you go.
He's definitely your guy, that's for sure. No question about that.
Darnell Nurse, I think, is much more of a bigger question mark as to what he's going to be able to sustain over a long period of time. And again, he's making more than Dougie Hamilton now. So.
And I also think too, it has a lot to do with the teams that they're going to be on too.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dougie Hamilton being on with New Jersey is going to be that's going to be a pretty good gig there, because I think that's going to improve New Jersey to the point where that's going to potentially keep him motivated to want to continue to play and be good and try to make the playoffs and try to do, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And the other good news for New Jersey is that PK Subban's contract comes off the books after this season, so he'll be out of there, and that will be, it'll be Hamilton's show. And then obviously they've got Ty Smith they drafted. They've got Ryan Graves, who they traded for this offseason. They just drafted Luke Hughes, who will be coming up through the pipeline. So
New Jersey, man, I'll tell you what. You look out for what they're well on their way in the rebuild process. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, New Jersey with the offseason that they've had, I think, has taken that step from rebuilding team to first step out of the rebuild.
Yeah.
They would not have signed a veteran goaltender like Bernier or a big defenseman like Hamilton to a contract like this if they weren't trying to take that next step. So I don't think you can really count New Jersey as a rebuild anymore. I think they're going for that first step out of the rebuild, and then the next step will be the playoffs, which we'll see how quickly they're able to get there.
Plus, 3 years in a row now they've had really good number one picks.
They've had, and I remember specifically their 2020 and 2021 drafts being very good. So this is a team that is setting up to be very good.
And the last time I checked, their other number one overall pick is working out pretty good too.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, what do we know, right?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that's going to do it for our first part here. When we come back, we're going to talk about some more major signings that have happened since free agency open, but kind of a little bit after. Not counting, we just talked about defensemen for an hour, so we'll be talking about other players other than defensemen that have signed some pretty significant deals. And then at the end, we're going to talk about some players that are still available, UFAs that have not signed yet. And there are definitely some notable ones who do not have jobs for next season as of now. And obviously the circumstances surrounding that differs for each player. But first, we are going to hear from our show sponsor, Canine Country Club Resorts. And we want to give a big thank you to them for all of their support for everything here at Steel Flyers All Sports Network. Obviously we couldn't do this without them and everything that they do for us. So big thank you to Canine Country Club Resorts. And here's a word from our sponsor.
Greetings. This is Steel Flyers from the Steel Flyers All Sports Network, and we have two very special guests. We are delighted to be joined by Tracy Musser and Nicole Howard from the Canine Country Club Resorts. Tracy and Nicole are both managers for CCC Resorts and work at the Windsor or at the club, one of two locations both in Manheim, Pennsylvania. Congratulations on your 30th year anniversary of being in business. Let me start off by saying this. Steel Flyer stands behind this company 100%. Taking care of Steel Flyer's furry friend for the last 2 years now, and they are a one-stop shop for everything your furry friend needs. In fact, let's find out what our friends at CCC Resorts offer. Nicole, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you. What are some of the great boarding services that you guys offer, and what do we have to do in order to get our furry friends taken care of when we are unable to travel with them?
Well, we like to bring everybody in for a tour first. That way they can see the behind the scenes, they can see where they stay, they can see where they play, and then we explain all of the fun things that we can add on to their reservation, whether it be one of our packages, either a nature walk, a ball time, or even a cuddle time.
Oh, wow, that sounds great. Boy, it sure sounds like a resort to me. So how are you today, Tracy?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Tracy, tell me, is it true that you guys have both an indoor and an outdoor pool at the Windsor location?
It is true. We've got one of each, so we're able to offer year-round swimming. The indoor pool is a great option for dogs who are swimming for therapy or rehab. It's got that sloped entry so they can wade into the water. Our outdoor pool is a little bit larger, and it's 4 foot deep the whole way across. And both of them are saltwater pools, so it's really easy on the dog's skin and coat.
Wow, that's very awesome. So then during the summer months, you have a much deeper pool outside and then a sloped entry shallow pool indoors for the dogs. Tracy, tell the folks how we can get some pool time.
Well, the first thing everyone does is come for an intro swim. We use that time to make sure the dog is comfortable in the water. We make sure they know how to get out of the pool safely, and we go over all the pool rules and etiquette with the clients as well. After that, they're able to schedule private appointments where they have the pool to themselves, or they can invite friends and have a whole group swim going on.
So after a dip in the pool, then it would have to be off to the groomers, right? I mean, our furry friends cannot go out looking their best. Nicole, what are some of the great services your top-notch groomers provide?
Our groomers, they specialize in full service grooms. We can do the basics, whether it be just a bath and a brush out or a blowout. Or for the extra pampered pooches, we can do nail dremels, we can do deodorizing soaks, and also facials.
Wow, man, that sounds like a resort if you ask me. Tracy, I know one of the main programs here at CCC Resorts is the WAGS program. The Steel Flyers dog is enrolled in this program. So why don't you tell the folks what is involved in this and how they can get enrolled?
Yeah, the WAGS program is our primary daycare option at the Windsor. It's designed to be a structured program for people who are looking for a set routine for their dog. They all come on the same days each week, which allows them to have set friends, and we know exactly what's going on with each group. So we do a little bit more activities, and we build more into their daily routine there. But we've got other daycare options as well for people looking for a little less commitment. We do an hourly care where you can drop them off and just pay by the hour. We also do a day stay option, which is great for the dogs that prefer human friends instead of making friends with other dogs. And then we have a traditional daycare option as well if you're looking for the occasional outing for your dog.
Wow, there you have it. A full-service groomer, a daycare program, and an indoor and outdoor pool. What more could you ask for? Sure seems like CCC Resorts has everything covered. Remember, DOG, depend on God.
And we are back. Again, a big thank you to Canine Country Club Resorts for their support and sponsorship here at the Steel Flyers All Sports Network. Now we have some more signings to talk about. Obviously, we just spent almost an hour talking about defensemen. Other players have been signing as well, and I'm just going to go through the list here.
We do have quite the list.
Yeah.
Look, before each show, we always come up with some notes and stuff that we do and stuff that we talk about before each show because, we have to have a little bit of a pre-show kind of show thing, to get everything straight, And we came up with a list of players that, we came up with, 9 players in the defensive market that signed big, giant contracts, and some of those we just discussed. There's some other major signings, too, that we're going to talk about here, too, and that's about another, 9 or so players as well. And then there's another list of players that, are still available. Mm-hmm. So we like to kind of give you guys a lot of different perspectives on things, especially with players that have made some major signings, especially the players that we're going to talk about that have made some major signings. And there's been some doozies on here too, hasn't there?
Yeah, definitely. We've seen a few young goaltenders get some deals, mostly
a few
shorter.
Young goaltenders,
and obviously some RFA forwards as well, and a big UFA signing with the New Jersey Devils. Man, the Devils came out and they've spent some money this offseason. This is one of the biggest reasons why I think New Jersey is really trying to take that step out of rebuilding and into where they're trying to contend. Because they went out and they got Tomas Tatar at a 2-year deal, $4.5 million per season. Obviously, on top of bringing in Dougie Hamilton, Jonathan Bernier, they've added some veterans to this team, and it seems like they truly are going for it to try and push for a playoff spot next season.
That's definitely looking like what they're doing, and like we talked about at the top part of the show, man, I think New Jersey is going to be a much more improved team this coming year. Mm-hmm. And, with now not being in the East per se, as far as that division now being back in their original home division, you know what I mean? I think they're going to win some more games. and they're still going to be a team to be content with, because look, they've got a lot of first round draft picks on the team now.
Mm-hmm.
They've gotten quite a few high end free agents to come on the team now as well.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so they also brought in a really good goaltender as well. They also have a really good goaltender there too.
Yep.
Okay. And like I said, they've got some number one picks that have all turned out to be relatively good players. They've got some number one picks that are, in the wings coming up as well too. So, I mean, they seem to be definitely headed in that, we stepped off the rebuild bus.
Yeah.
Now we're into full coming after you now.
Yeah, definitely. I'm certainly looking for a much more improved New Jersey team from what we saw last year, and I think they're taking those steps and they're headed in the right direction. And this is a team that I've really liked what they've done as far as their rebuild goes over the past few years, and I think they are really setting themselves up to be in good shape, a couple years down the line. And this is going to be a team that, as long as they continue to stay patient and not kind of try and rush it. And I don't think that's going to be a problem with Tom Fitzgerald. I think he's done a phenomenal job as their general manager. This is a team that's setting up to be a really, really good team down the line. And I'm excited to see where it goes. And it's nice to see them kind of start taking that next step and bringing the veteran guys in and trying to, push it a little bit and say, hey, all right, we're not going for a top 5 pick next year. We don't want to be drafting in the top 5 next year. We want to be a team that's competing for a playoff spot. And they're in a very tough Metro division. Obviously, you've got the Capitals and the Penguins and the Flyers and the 2 New York teams and the Hurricanes. So you've got a very tough division there, but they're a team that's a high effort team. They're going to go out there and work every night. And I think they're going to be better this year than some people realize. And they're definitely a team, I think, that could be a surprise this season and could maybe try and snag a final playoff spot, if depending on how things go with some of the other teams and injuries and whatnot.
Yeah.
They might be able to snag a wild card spot if the chips happen to fall the right way. But nonetheless, I definitely think they're going to be better than what we saw last year.
They have made the steps over the last couple of years. They've gotten the number one draft picks over the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. They've brought in the players that they were able to bring in. They were able to shed some other players at the trade deadline as well too. You know what I mean? And so that allows them to have some more space and some more room to bring up some of the younger players as well too. And then also to be able to bring in some of these guys like a Thomas Tatar, like a Dougie Hamilton, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And like a good goaltender to come in and be those difference makers on this team, to bring them more into the light of contention instead of into the light of rebuild or retooling or whatever you want to call it. So,
yeah, definitely. And they still have a lot of cap space. They still have $12 million. And, they're obviously going to need it, though. And I think that's something to be mindful of, is that, they are going to have these young guys, once they come off their ELCs, are going to be getting significant raises. I mean, you've got Jack Hughes. This is the final year of his ELC. You've got Boquist coming off an ELC this year. You've got Ty Smith, who will need a new contract after 2022-23. He's going to get a significant raise. So, on paper, they have a lot of cap space. But if you're the GM, you've got to be thinking more than just right now. You've got to be thinking ahead. And that's almost, what we've seen with Colorado, where we were ranting and raving, 2 summers ago about how good Colorado was and how much cap space they had. Well, that cap space went away very quickly when they actually started to have to pay guys.
How about that?
Yeah. So, New Jersey, while they have a lot of space now on paper, and they also have PK Subban's contract coming off after this season, that's another $9 million. They got to realize that they've got a lot of guys to pay down the line. And it's good to keep that cap space. You don't want to spend to the cap right now if you're the New Jersey Devils, because then you're putting yourself in a situation where it's going to be a problem to pay these young guys when they come off their ELCs.
Exactly. And, that's funny, too, that we talk about New Jersey and what they've done. It seems as though, as well, there's some other teams that are on this Eastern Seaboard, too, that are trying to improve as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so seeing some of these other names that we've seen with re-signing of certain things and things of that nature, I have to say, it seems like the East is really trying to take that next step. The Eastern teams are just really trying to take that, the teams that are in the Metro and stuff like that. I just see that. Like, I'm also seeing teams too, like Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit's another team that's definitely still in a rebuild, but they locked up two very important young players, and in true Stevie Y fashion, didn't lock them into Seth Jones-like contracts. Gave Tyler Bertuzzi a 2-year deal at $4.75 million, and gave Jakub Vrana a 3-year deal at $5.25 million. And, again, it's kind of those bridge deals that are very much kind of wait and see.
Yeah.
And, you're not locking them into 6 or 7 years. You're not giving them obnoxious amounts of money. You're saying, here's, a midterm deal. Prove yourself that you're worth this, and then see what you can get when you hit free agency down the line when these deals are up. And I like both of these deals. Vrana played extremely well after being traded from Washington because he was always kind of buried in Washington's lineup. He wasn't able to get the ice time and the power play time in the top 6 minutes. And, he wasn't the go-to guy because of all the other weapons that Washington had. But now he's in Detroit where he is a go-to guy. And he played extremely well for them after the trade.
Yeah, suits him well. Yeah, I'm with you on that, too.
So I think he's going to light it up this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he scores 30 goals this season.
I mean, he played really well once he did get traded.
Yeah.
Out of Washington. You know what I mean? So he played really well. I'm looking for him to – I think this was a great move by Detroit.
Oh, I do too.
To re-sign him for 3 years, $5.25 million. I think that was a great move for them.
He had 8 goals in 11 games with the Red Wings after the trade deadline last year.
Yeah, and I'm blanking on the guy that Detroit traded for. Mantha, right?
They sent Mantha to Washington,
and he actually played well.
Mantha did play well at the end of the regular season. Playoffs, not so much.
Not so much, but he did. I thought that was a good trade mutually.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because I think Detroit got a good player, and I think Washington got a good player as well too. Even though we're not really sure. Mantha already had term on his contract, so that's where they don't need to. But to see Detroit sign him, I think that's really good. Along with Bertuzzi,
I like Tyler Bertuzzi a lot. I mean, he's a gritty, kind of an agitator, but can give you 20+ goals each year. He just needs to stay healthy. He's been injured every year for the past 3 seasons. He just needs to stay healthy. I think that's really the only thing that's kind of held him back from becoming, a top power forward and almost like a Brady Tkachuk type player. The problem is that he hasn't been on the ice because he hasn't been healthy. I mean, this is a guy that only played 9 games last season. He had 7 points and 5 goals in those 9 games, but he only played 9 games. Now, he was healthy the year before. He had 21 goals in 71 games, but the year before that, he only played 73 games. That was a full 82-game season. So you're looking at, missing almost 10 games that season as well. And he had 21 goals again in that season. So,
well, you know what though? To be honest with you, if I get 70 games out of you and you still put up 20 goals.
Oh yeah, I'm happy. It's definitely worth the $4.75 million.
Ding ding. Excuse me. Where do I write the check?
Yeah, I just want to see him stay healthy for a full
Yeah.
year and play 80 plus games and be there the whole season, because I think he could easily have 25 goals and 50 points.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing too. God, could you imagine him playing a full season and being healthy the whole season? Holy moly!
I think he could definitely be a 50-point winger and bring that grit and nastiness, physicality to the game as well.
We both like his game.
I love Tyler Bertuzzi's game.
Yes, very much like that game too. Now, we've talked about, for the most part, the other the players on the list. There's with the exception of Sam Reinhart, the other guys that are on this list are goalies.
Yes.
And that is another thing too, that last year was a pretty decent backup goalie market. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought last year was a good goaltender market.
And the year before was kind of, and the year before that was even better. You know what I mean? But I'm with you on there was a lot of goalies moving around this past offseason.
Yes, there were, but I don't think they were exactly the highest quality goaltenders moving around this offseason.
With one exception.
Well, no, there are some good goalies that moved, but I think there are some overrated goalies that moved.
Okay. One that I don't feel was overrated was the Grubauer.
Yeah, no, I think Grubauer is going to be fine. Well, I think like
Seattle,
Freddie Anderson, I don't know how that's going to go. Mrazek in Toronto, I don't think Toronto fans are going to like that after this season. I think there were some overrated goaltenders moved, but it wasn't a terrible year. I mean, you had good goalies. I mean, Anderson is a good goaltender. I just don't think he's at the level that some people think he is, especially after last season. Even Grubauer, I think, was largely helped by the team in front of him being so good. I don't think he on his own is an elite level goalie.
Well, what's really kind of funny though, is that he's going to a team that has a pretty decent defense in front of him.
Yeah, so Seattle's not going to be able to score, but they're going to have a very good defensive team.
I mean, so we'll see, I guess, if it's the defense playing in front of him or if it's the goalie. For sure, we'll see that in Seattle. You know what I mean? But the fact that he signed a pretty nice contract, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with him moving to Seattle. I think that's a good place for him. I think that's a good way for him to, reestablish himself as the main man, pots and pans. And I'm happy with that deal. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the deals that I think we need to talk about, and I'm really not trying to be a homer here, and that is the Carter Hart deal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, when you put your analyst glasses on and you look at this and go, wow, they rewarded him with a almost $4 million a year contract for 3 years, in spite of him only playing less than 43% of the games last year. I don't know, man.
They believe in Carter Hart the same way that I do.
I believe in Carter Hart. All right. But I was looking more at 3 years at 2.7.
I don't think he would have maybe taken a 1 year at 2.7, but I don't think he's locking in. Because if Carter Hart goes back to being 2020 Carter Hart, he's going to be worth a lot more than $4 million per year.
I agree with you 100%. And I also agree with you that this is the bridge deal, but I just think it's a little, maybe 2 years then at 2.7, or maybe 2 years at 3. But I I think it's a little high.
If anything, I would have gone shorter term then. Because Carter Hart, I mean, it's really a tale of two Carter Harts. You have 2020 and you have 2021. And what he is going to be long term, which one is he going to be? Is he going to be the guy with a 2.42 goals against and a 9.14 save percentage? Or is he going to be the guy with a 3.6 goals against and the 8.77 save percentage? I think that Carter Hart I believe that he's going to get back to being the 2020 guy. I think he's going to end up being one of the better goaltenders in the NHL, and I think he's going to be well worth. Let's say he comes out, he has a great year next year, and let's say he wins 35-ish games and has a 2.51 goals against and a 9.15 save percentage. Having a goaltender putting up numbers like that at 3.98 is an absolute steal. Now, if he comes out and only wins 20 games and only has Sergei Bobrovsky numbers and has a 2 or 3.02 goals against and
like the numbers he had just this past season,
barely 900 save percentage. Well, that's even an improvement from where he was last year. But
that's what I mean.
Even if he gets to Sergei Bobrovsky numbers, then I think you're going to start to really question. What is Carter Hart going to be long term? Is he really the guy that we thought he was?
I really, in my learned opinion, I really think that the improvement of the blue line that was made this offseason by Chuck Fletcher, and I really think that's going to play a major role in Carter Hart returning back to form.
I certainly hope so.
Because I'm going to tell you something. If that's not going to be the case, it's going to be another long year in Philadelphia. And people are going to see a lot of Martin Jones.
Oh, good luck with that.
Okay. and I'm not really, I don't know enough about this Martin Jones. I haven't seen enough of him.
He's been terrible the past 2 years.
But from what I understand, his defense that he's played against or with is even kind of or right around the same badness as the Flyers. So,
San Jose's defense is not good, but Martin Jones has not been good either. Like his individual play, he gives up a lot of bad goals. That's something that always jumps out with Martin Jones.
Okay.
Is he gives up a lot of just you're like, how did that go in the net? Like I would not be surprised if somebody scores on Martin Jones at one point this season from outside the blue line.
All right, that's okay. You need to stop right there.
No, it's just it seems like especially over the last few years, it's really jumped out that he just gives up bad goals at random times where it's just like absolutely atrocious. Can't believe it went in the net.
Boy, Carter Hart, can you please make sure that you are checked in and ready to go for this year? Because the Flyers really need this goalie to pan out to be the goaltender that.
No, the Flyers absolutely need Carter Hart. They are not going anywhere without him being at the top of his game. But I think Carter Hart at the top of his game would be worth an Igor Shesterkin type contract, which he just signed a 4-year deal at $5.67 million per season with the New York Rangers. Now, Shesterkin, we've known for the past year that he's the future for the Rangers, and they don't lock him into an 8-year deal or anything like that, but they give him a 4-year deal at almost $6 million per. Again, Shesterkin I think's been outstanding, and if Carter Hart didn't have the horrendous year last year that he did, he would have been getting a contract like this if he had stayed at his 2020 level.
Oh, I think he would have gotten more.
Probably would have gotten more, absolutely.
Yeah, I can pretty much tell you that if he would have stayed at his numbers from the previous year in spite of how wretched the defense was in front of him, they would have basically backed up the Brinks truck for him. I mean, no, I'm not kidding. I mean, could think about that. If he was able to still play at that same level
Yeah.
and still make that same amount of stops, in spite of the defense that's in front of him, I mean,
I think even if he dipped a little, even if he dipped a little, if he pulled a 9-10, if he pulled a 9-10 save percentage last year with that defense, I think everyone would have been looking at it as, okay, it's not his fault. It's how bad the defense is. He's still a good goal. He's still playing well. He's still making the stops. But the problem is how far he didn't drop off. He jumped off.
He
a
just
cliff.
fell off. He didn't drop off. He fell off.
Yeah, he went
or
flying.
no, he got pushed off. I don't know what happened, but let's just say we hope your head's right this year, Mr. Hart.
Yeah, he's got to get back to being Carter.
I'm with you on the Shesterkin.
Yeah,
I like the
Shesterkin deal. I think he's going to end up being one of the better he'll be a top 10 goaltender without a doubt for the entirety of this contract.
I agree. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if you see him in the Vezina conversation, say maybe in the next year or two.
No, I wouldn't either. I'm with you on that. I definitely think he's got Vezina potential. I think this is a very good contract for the Rangers.
Now here's another one too that kind of is like, because this one kind of is like, we talked about this the last time too, was the Holtby deal.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because Holtby and Martin kind of were looking at the same kind of level as far as money, and Holtby got the same kind of deal here. They got the same
contract, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Samsonov for Washington, the other goaltender, with a 1 year, $2 million.
Yeah, very different situation here though, because Jones and Holtby are both 31-year-olds that have been in the league and have been were starters for a long time, and now are kind of relegated to backup as they've very much dipped off in their play. Samsonov's contract, this is a different story. He's 24 years old. He was supposed to be the starter last year. He was supposed to be the guy that took over and was Braden Holtby's replacement and was the next franchise guy. And then he played, only 19 of the 56 games last season because he spent almost the whole year on the COVID list. And, had some injury issues as well. Numbers, won a lot of games, won 13 games, but had only a .902 save percentage. And 2.69 goals against isn't bad. I would have liked to have seen the save percentage higher, though. And then didn't play all that well in the playoffs. Played 3 of the games in the postseason, lost all 3 to the Bruins, gave up almost 3 goals a game, and had a save percentage right around .900. So, again, mediocre numbers in the playoffs. He gets a 1-year deal at $2 million. This is obviously another show me for 1 year deal before we commit to you, which was supposed to be last season for Samsonov. But because he didn't play for such a large majority of the season, the show me deal, I guess, or the show me year is now this year in this contract.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they only played 9 games or whatever.
Yeah.
Or 13 games.
19 games.
19 games. Well, that's not a lot of games. Anyway, I'm with you. I'll tell you what, though. I like this deal because I really feel that as long as he stays available, and he's proven that when he is on the ice, he's able to win the games.
Oh, yeah. He's a good goaltender. He's just got to be there.
Right. So availability is going to be the key for this player. If he's going to be out there for the majority of the nights out there playing, then, this is a great deal all the way around. It gets Washington a cheap deal for a goalie that potentially, is going to be commanding, the bigger, Shesterkin type money in the following year.
In the future, yeah. And they have Vanacek back, so they have a security blanket there to go along with him as the backup. And we saw last year Vanacek ended up playing way more than he was expected to. Actually, he wasn't even expected to be playing in the NHL at all. And he ended up playing a majority of their games and actually played very well. So they have that security blanket there in Washington.
And that's all good. Yeah, that's
it's
all
definitely
good too.
the show me year for Samsonov this year.
For sure. Well, I'll tell you what, man, those were some of the major signings.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you know, to be honest with you, I really think that most of these major signings were, for the most part, team-friendly deals.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they weren't. I mean, you know, look, obviously they weren't the, the Alex Ovechkin. What did he get? 5 years, $9.5 million.
9.5. Yep.
You know what I mean? What was Braden Point's deal? That was like 6 years at 9.
8 at 9.5.
Okay, you know what I mean? So there were some deals out there that were like, yeah, okay. But I really liked talking about the deals that were, you know, some of the most recent signings were a little bit more smarter, I feel, than some of the out of control defense.
Oh yeah, I don't look at any of these contracts the way that I look at some of these the contracts that some of these defensemen
Exactly. So the reason what I'm getting to is that I want to talk about some of the players that are still available.
Yeah, and there's some good ones.
I mean, there are some players that are very near and dear to Boston's heart on this list that we're going to talk about. Okay. And one of the biggest names, I think, is going to be Tuukka Rask. Now, the only reason why I think we're saying this is because there's question marks as to his return.
Yeah, if he's even coming back.
That's what I mean. If he's even coming back. If he is even coming back, is he going to only come back to Boston?
I think so.
Would he consider going somewhere else? I think he's only going to come back to Boston.
Everything that I've heard is that it's Boston or nothing for him, and we don't even know if he's going to come back. What we do know is that he's out until at least February.
February, yeah.
So that's why I don't think you're going to see anything happen with regards to Rask anytime soon, because there's no rush to do it. He might not sign until, maybe late January and just sign a 1-year deal. Like when Mike Fisher unretired so 2017, the Predators go to the finals. Obviously they lose to Pittsburgh. They don't win, but Mike Fisher retires that offseason. And then like halfway through the 2017-18 season, he signed a 1-year deal with Nashville and came back for the second half of the season and one last playoff run.
Yeah.
Obviously, it didn't go as well for Nashville, but I could see Tuukka doing that kind of thing where he signs in January, comes back for one last hurrah, and I think it would be Boston or nothing with him. He's said that like his kids are all in school, they all go to school in where the Boston area, wherever they live, whatever schools they go to, they all have their friends. Like he doesn't want to uproot his family and go somewhere else. Now, could he just, could they continue living in Boston and then he just go somewhere for half a year and be like, well, I'll sign somewhere for one more playoff run? That potentially could happen. But it really feels to me like if he does come back, it's going to be the Bruins or he's just not going to come back.
Or nothing. Yeah. No, I'm with you. But that's why I wanted to bring that up, because I just wanted to kind of shed some light on that a little bit too, because there is that question mark, and we do know that Swayman is going to be obviously the he's
for Allmark.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But he's also, I believe, going to be the heir apparent.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely they're planning on him being the future. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So, and if Tuukka Rask decides to hang it up after this season, or at this season before he goes in, or whatever the case is, or however it goes. Look, that's the other thing, too. This is almost like a trade deadline acquisition for them. Oh, and by the way, it just happens to be Tuukka Rask.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because the trade deadline is what, February?
Yeah, it should be. I don't have the date in front of me, but it should be February, yeah.
Right. Okay, so he's not supposed to be ready to come back until then. Hey, what do you know? Tuukka Rask is healthy, ready to go. And looky there. just in time to be going right into the roster for the Bruins. I mean, it couldn't be any more storybook than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They make a run for the playoffs, and he hoists the cup, and he gets to retire in the sunset. Hey, you can dream, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to go down that road. Some of the other players that were on the list here are Kyle Palmieri.
So that's an interesting one because they apparently have a deal in place with the Islanders, which is why he hasn't signed anywhere else. But the Islanders are taking forever to get any of their guys signed.
Okay.
Pellick's the only one, but Sorokin's still in RFA. Bavillier's still in RFA. Palmieri's a UFA. Zajac is a UFA, and they haven't they haven't officially done anything yet. So I don't know what's in the works with the Islanders, but if you remember when before Matthew Barzal re-signed, that went down to the wire. That was right before training camp. They waited till the last minute. It seems like they're waiting till the last minute again this offseason.
Well, hey, there's no rush for things now.
No. And he hasn't signed anywhere else, so it seems like there must be some sort of agreement there.
Yeah, so there's no rush per se for him to go anywhere, So one of the other names on the list here too that I wanted to get and touch at briefly is Zdeno Chara. Now, and the only reason why I want to talk about him is, because he's near and dear to especially Boston fans.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think he's going to come back, or do you think he's going to hang it up?
I think he's retiring. I think at this point he's retiring.
Okay. That's why I wanted to touch on that, because he's one of the names on our list here of players still available.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he might be available. But
yeah, I mean, he's a free agent, but I think Chara's retiring. I don't think he's going to be back.
That's what I was going to say. I think that Chara's on the retirement list. The only thing he's holding out for is the retirement list. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, all right. So the next player on the list is this, and these next couple of players are going to be a little bit, Zach Parise,
another guy tied to the Islanders, which again the Islanders haven't really done anything. So
still on the list, right? And Travis Zajac is another one.
I still think Zajac could be a decent third liner. I'm a little surprised that he's out there.
That's the other thing too with the Islanders is that Lee is going to be coming back too off of IR.
Yeah, Zajac I don't think he's not going to be going back to New York. But I'm surprised that nobody else is in on Travis Zajac, at least not yet, because I still think he can be. He's defensively responsible. He's a big-time leader. I mean, he played in New Jersey for so long. Brings a lot to the locker room. I feel like there's definitely a place out there for Travis Zajac in the bottom six of somebody's lineup.
With training camps coming up, you just never know where he might get an invite.
I wonder if Detroit would be in on somebody like that, because he'd be a great locker room guy. Ottawa, another team that could really, has, a lot of young guys, but could use that veteran presence in the locker room. I think Zajac should go to a team like that.
Either that or maybe Calgary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hey, we're just throwing stuff here.
Anaheim's another one that could definitely. Although they have Getzlaf still there, so they have some leadership there. But I think Zajac, if he's going to continue playing, is probably going to end up on a team that's a very young team that they bring him in to kind of play limited bottom 6 minutes, but be a locker room guy. Yeah.
No, I'm with you on that for sure. And that's the other thing too, and plus his versatility. He can play the wing, he can play center. Yep. You know what I mean? And so that gives you a little bit more options with that too. So, okay, I like that. So, and I'm surprised that he hasn't been signed. But then again, you know what I mean? It's still early. There's no rush. There's no, you know what I mean? You can kind of take your time. I think we're going to see more of that this year because there's no COVID restrictions. There's no, they're going to be a regular training camp,
Mm-hmm.
a regular normal season.
Yeah, some of these guys probably won't sign until September.
That's what I mean. So
And you'll also have PTO guys too, which I think Travis Zajac is better than that. I don't think he is a PTO guy. I think he deserves a spot in somebody's lineup, but there will be PTO guys as well as training camps get going, which the next guy on the list I think might be a PTO guy.
Yeah, man, and Eric Goodbranson.
Depth D-man at this point. Big physical guy, tough, but I don't think anybody's rushing to sign Eric Goodbranson. I think he's going to be more of a depth acquisition that you might bring in for training camp, and if he earns a spot as your seventh defenseman, then he's your new seventh defenseman.
There you go. Yeah, I'm with you on that. And some of these other guys too might also fall into that category too. James Neal.
Yeah, James Neal, I think at this point is a PTO guy. I mean, he's not bringing anything to the table anymore. Sammy Vaughn, again, he's fallen off a ton over the past couple years.
Yeah,
I mean, this was a guy who was, at one point almost a 40-point guy with Anaheim, and then really kind of dropped off after going to the Devils, and then last season had just 6 points in 39 games. I don't think Sammy Vaughn is not a guy that's getting rushed to be signed.
No,
another kind of bottom pair, maybe seventh D-man at this point.
Exactly. I'm with you on that. The last name on the list is Tyler Bozak.
He's one of the best players still available. And
that's what I mean.
I'm surprised that Bozak hasn't been signed.
Does he have time left on his deal?
No.
Is he an unrestricted free agent?
Yeah, he's a UFA.
Okay, well then. All right. Well, what's he going to be looking at? Like
he's
5'6".
He's still a very solid third line center. Yeah. I think he'll probably get somewhere. I don't know. Bozak is 30. Oh God, why is his age not listed? Oh, he was born in 1986, so 96, 06, 16. All right, so he's mid-30s now. He's 35. So 35-year-old third-line center. He had 17 points in 31 games last year. I mean, offense has definitely dropped off.
One and a half, $2 million a year, maybe.
Somewhere 2.5 to 3, probably.
Whatever.
I don't know. Actually, because of his age, you might get him cheaper than that.
That's what I mean. 1.5 to 2.
You might get him at 2.5 mil. I still think he can be a solid bottom six center, though.
That's what I mean.
I'm surprised he's still available.
He might be another one of those types of players too that we'll wait till see what happens after camp.
Yeah, that's true. Or he might in camp.
Yeah, or he might get an invite to camp. That's the other thing too. So we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I mean, he was making $5 million on his last contract that just expired. Now, obviously, he's not worth that anymore. But I'm a little surprised he's not on a roster.
Yeah. But I think with where we spoke, as far as the amount of money that we felt that he was be worth. I think that would be a good deal for him, 2-3 years at that kind of money. I think that would be a good deal for him, and there's going to be a team out there that'll scoop him up.
Yeah. Another one, I'm just kind of looking through the list of remaining unrestricted free agents here. Another one that kind of jumps out at me is Derek Brassard. 33 years old, actually had a pretty decent season with Arizona last year. And Arizona wasn't a good team, but he had 20 points in 53 games. So again, obviously not a top six player that he used to be, but in a third line role, if you can get, 20 to 30 points out of him on a third line, another guy that I still think could provide some value in the right situation. And Bobby Ryan is another one. Coming out of Detroit, he had 14 points in 33 games last year. So, he's a guy that I feel like at least should be on a roster. And I think will be by the time that we actually get started next season.
I will agree with you on that. There's definitely those. I mean, that's like that almost. Football does the same thing.
Oh yeah.
There's a bunch of guys that, look, let's face it, don't really want to go through training camp. I mean, okay, you get into the league for however many years and you suddenly realize, I don't like training camp.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can skip it, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
And there's guys out there that do. I mean, I don't have a problem with that.
Especially older guys. Like they don't
exactly.
They don't need to go through that over and over and over again.
And see, that's the other thing too, is certain coaches will give those older guys a little bit more breaks.
Yeah.
Where they won't, like, if you notice in a lot of the preseason games, most of the big name stars don't even play in the preseason games.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even see those guys until like the last 2 or 3 preseason games, and even then they're only going to play a period or two. You know what I mean? They play a lot of the inner squad scrimmages and stuff.
Yeah, but they don't. You don't see a ton of them in the actual preseason.
That's what I mean.
They're not risking them getting injured. Yeah,
exactly. So, you know what though? I gotta be honest with you, man. With the way the draft has gone, the way the offseason has gone, the way the free agency has gone, man. We got puck drop here, man, and in what?
Couple months.
2 months.
2
months. We got puck drop.
I can't wait.
From today, the 13th, right? 2 months from today.
Yeah. I'm excited. I can't wait. It's honestly, it's going to be a fast 2 months, but a long 2 months at the same time.
Agreed.
But yeah, October 12th is opening night, so almost to the day of exactly 2 months. October 12th, and 2 incredible games to start the season too. Pittsburgh against Tampa Bay at 7:30, and then Seattle against Vegas at 10.
I have a feeling you're going to be calling those games.
I have a feeling I'm going to be opening the season with a doubleheader.
I have that feeling myself, my man. Yeah.
And then the Rangers and Capitals play the next night.
Ooh, doggies. You know what? Look, for the first time, look, we say this a lot about every season, hey, we're excited about each of our favorite teams every year and everything like that. I'm really excited to see what happens with New Jersey this year.
Yep.
Because I think they've done a lot of very interesting things. I'm also really interested to see what happens with Philadelphia.
I am too.
They have made a major culture shift in Philadelphia, okay, in my opinion. And I want to see how that comes together.
Yeah.
This year. Because if it don't,
it's gonna be a restart.
It's gonna be yes, this is Mr. President. We're at DEFCON 1. Please hit the button and start over.
Yeah, they'll clean house. If it's another bad year, I mean, Fletcher will be gone, Vigneault will be gone. They'll completely clean house and start over.
So this is a very, very, very pivotal year for the Flyers. If they do not come out of the gates well,
Vigneault will be. If they come out bad in the first 20 games, Vigneault, I think, will be one of the first coaches fired.
That to me would spell major failure. If they come out in the first 20 games after all the moves that this team has made, that to me would come across as a huge failure. And that would also mean too that the general manager won't see the following draft. So
I feel if they're 7-9 and 4 to start the year, I think Vigneault is gone at that point.
Yeah, there has to be a concerted winning record in the first 20 games.
Yeah, I think they got to win at least 12 of their first 20.
At least. At the very least. And, I mean, look, we're not talking about a short leash or anything, are we? No. But when you look at it, it really kind of has to be, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It has to be.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think, man? Gosh, we got almost 2 hours.
And hockey's almost, almost exactly 2 months away.
And we haven't had a hockey game in
over a
2 months.
Finals, I forget what day in July it was. It was after the 4th of July, though.
It was after the 4th, but I think it was that weekend was the end.
It was like, was it the 5th or the 7th? I think it was July 7th was the last game. I don't know for sure, but it was around there. So it's been a little over
a month.
It's been a little over a month since I've watched a hockey game. And we're now just about 2 months away from next regular season starting. We'll have preseason games to watch, though, before.
Yeah,
which I get really excited for the first preseason game, and then it's really boring, and I realize, can we just get to the regular season now? Especially now, because like the preseason used to be fun when you had guys like trying to fight their way into the lineup, and like preseason games would be like out of control and have like 6 fights because you had like all these AHL guys just throwing hands all the time. But the preseason now, these guys are like just out there trying to get a good skate in and not get hurt.
Exactly. And, I'm with you, too, because I get the same way. I get really excited because it's the first game. It's preseason. It's the first game. It's preseason.
Yeah.
It's the first game. It's preseason. Oh, it's the first preseason game. Oh, gosh. When are we dropping the puck for real?
Yeah, when the AHL lineup takes the ice, you're like, I'm ready for October.
Yeah, where's the popcorn?
Yeah.
Where's the hot dog? Can we go get the hot dog? But really excited to see what's going on here. We'll probably have some things to talk about, for next week as well, too. So, John, thank you very much for everything you do here, brother. Would not be able to do this without you and all the support that you do and all the hard work that you do. So thank you very much. We at Steel Flyers very much appreciate all that you do. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Steel, for coming on. Thank you for co-hosting this show. And another great episode here of the Off the Wall Hockey Show, a hockey show for hockey fans, part of the Steel Flyers All Sports Network. We'll be back next week with episode 33. We'll have more off-season stuff to talk about and maybe some other surprise topics too, depending on what we come up with for next week. But that's going to do it here for episode 32. A big thank you once again to our sponsor, Canine Country Club Resorts. Big shout out to them, and we obviously could not do this without them. And also a big thank you to each and every one of you who watch and listen to the show. Obviously, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys as well. So thank you so much for the continued support. And hopefully you'll join in next week for episode 33 as we'll be back on Friday night, 8 p.m. Live show per usual. Thank you guys so much. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. And we'll be talking to you soon.